Hello, I'm Pamela Davis. Welcome to episode 43 of the Well Done Life podcast. Hello, I'm Pamela Davis, and welcome back to episode 43 of the Well Done Life podcast. If you're new here, hey, welcome. If you've been here before, thank you for continuing to support me on the journey. The Well Done Life podcast is about building community. It's about women coming together, sharing our stories, sharing our experiences, learning from each other so that we can grow together and live our best lives. So again, welcome and thank you for joining me on this journey. Before we get started with this week's episode, I want to take this opportunity to give all praise and reverence to everyone out here as we're battling COVID-19. COVID-19 has really just continued, unfortunately, to be a little unrelentless for us as well as the world. So I am sending prayers to each and every one of us out here that we can just do what we need to do to try to eradicate this disease. So please make sure that you are wearing your mask, social distancing, and being kind. There are so many people on the front lines out here who are really doing the real work to help us be able to have our best lives possible. We need to try to do everything that we can as citizens to protect ourselves so that we're not spreading this disease and overrunning our hospitals. It's just such a critical time, especially going into the holidays. Please try to be extra conscious of it. I know it's tough. Believe me, I miss my friends. I miss hugs. I miss actually being able to feel comfortable going and meeting with people face to face. But I know at the same time that so many of us are vulnerable, and there are a lot of people who have been affected by this disease, and many of them feel a stigma for even coming forward. And there shouldn't be a stigma behind it. This is something serious. So we just have to be the people that we are and be kind to one another. So as I jump off of my soapbox, I'm so excited to be back with you guys this week. I don't have a guest this week. It's just me, so I hope that's okay. I have really enjoyed having an opportunity to connect with so many wonderful women over the past few weeks. It has just been amazing, especially in the course of everything that we have been facing as a country dealing with the election. And I think that we're coming to an end, but I don't know. There's just, again, so much turmoil behind it. And I'm not turning this episode into something about politics. I actually need to say I need a break from it for a few moments. But, and we're going to talk about something else. We're not going to talk about politics this episode. However, I do want to make sure that I think we all continue to do our part and be informed. That's the best thing I can say. Be informed. Make sure you're aware of what is going on and really don't be passive. The time of being passive has passed us. We all have to be active parts of the process. And I also would like to say congratulations to President-elect Joe Biden, as well as Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. I feel like obviously there's tons of work left to do, and I want to thank everyone for the support and feedback that they've given on my last episode with all of the wonderful women that I got a chance to talk about the election and where we go from here. And if you haven't listened to episode 42, I would strongly recommend that you check it out. We are planning an episode 2 because I do think that there's still a lot to discuss because kind of like what I was saying, I think now we're at that point where we realize that you can't be passive in politics. So I want to bring the ladies back together again because I think it's time to talk about solutions. I don't believe in just getting on something and bitching about it. Excuse my language. That's really not what we're here for because that's never produced solutions. I think that this is an opportunity for us to all come together and to learn and to share and look at how we can build solutions that are really going to help us impact change. I feel like obviously every citizen within their community is really able to impact a change that's going to benefit their life, not necessarily focusing so much on the heaviness or the of the presidential elections and some of the upper classes. Maybe we need to start from the beginning. We need to get grassroots and in the community. So that will be coming soon. But like I said, again, thank you for continuing to listen. That episode is actually trending to be one of our highest listened episodes. So I think that pretty much signals to me that there are a lot of people out here who are curious to kind of talk to each other and learn and share. Because unfortunately, through the divisiveness, we're missing that part and we have to stop. So hopefully we'll build bridges and get us to going in the right direction. But again, like I said, this episode is not about politics. We're taking a step back. This episode, I really wanted to talk to you guys about pivoting. It's funny, I actually had an interview scheduled for tonight with another wonderful voice that I'm going to bring to the podcast. And we were going to talk, even though I don't really think she knew that, we're going to talk about influence in this time of social unrest in 2020 and what that really looks like. And I definitely will share that with you later. But it made me think of today's topic. And today's topic is about pivoting. Because I feel like if I've learned anything in 2020, I feel like I've learned that I need to be prepared to pivot. And I'm sure I'm not alone in feeling that way, because if I think about it, I'm sure as we went into all 2020, we all had plans. We all had different visions in our mind of how things were going to go. And unfortunately, with the way that COVID-19 has come about and taken root, we've had to pivot. And I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about it, because I think when you have to pivot, it sometimes is something that you can easily do, but pivoting can be really hard for some people. And that's not a bad thing, because obviously we all have our minds made up, in regards to how we think that our lives should go. Everything that we want to accomplish, some of us have it planned out to a T. And life is going to throw you curveballs, and it's all about how you deal with it. But it's at the same time being able to acknowledge the fact that you have to pivot. And how do you handle being able to pivot? So that's really what I want to kind of dive in a little bit to today, because again, I had to pivot. I had an interview scheduled, and unfortunately it didn't work out. We're going to reschedule for another time. So I had to pivot. And when I had to pivot, it made me think, in 2020, I think that's going to be like one of the top words that I had in my mind for 2020. I've had to pivot. I feel like I need a t-shirt that says 2020, the year of the pivot. Because I've had to pivot on so many things, and it's amazing. I mean, I'm working from home 24/7 now. I never thought that would be the way that my life would be. I was planning to go to Thailand this year and travel and do other things. Obviously, that didn't happen. And I haven't been able to see my friends, like really see my friends. Not just for socially distanced meetups, but I mean, have them hug me. I haven't had a hug since officially March of this year. So imagine what that's like, going through life not having that intimacy with people. It's tough. But you know what? I had to pivot, and I had to keep going. So before we get any further, let's kind of stick back to what I like to be. You know, I am a big fan of Merriam-Webster Dictionary. It's always my favorite. I love it. And I love to be foundational and really look at what the root of the word is and how it's applying to the situation. So let's talk about pivoting. So according to Merriam-Webster, which I really found interesting, is that there are actually 3 specific different entries for the word pivot. I never knew that a word could have multiple well, let me take that back. I knew words could have multiple meanings, but it just reminded me of how, wow, you know, one thing that we think is so simple can have so many different meanings. Hopefully you guys caught that, because that's applicable in so many other areas of life. But anywho, so the word pivot is a noun. And in definition 1 of 3, the definition of pivot is a shaft or pin on which something turns. Or the second definition is a person, thing, or factor having a major or central role, function, or effect. And the B to that is a key player or position, specifically an offensive position of a basketball player standing usually with the back to the basket to relay passes, shoot, or provide a screen for teammates. The third definition under that first definite entry is the act of pivoting. And pivoting is the action, especially the action in basketball of stepping with one foot while keeping the other foot at its point of contact with the floor. That's funny. That can really apply that to life in a second way. And then that was the first definition. Again, that was a noun as the first entry. Now, all of a sudden, we see that it becomes an entry to an adjective. And because of, obviously, it has action, because of that turning on, or as if on a pivot. And then obviously the keyword of pivotal. And then obviously then on entry 3, it becomes a verb. Pivoted, pivoting, pivots. and it becomes an intransitive verb, to turn on as if on a pivot, and then a transitive verb, to provide with, mount on, or attached by a pivot, to cause to pivot. So there's so many different roots of those words, so many different meanings that can apply. I mean, it can mean anything from the bottom line, bullseye, centerpiece, core, crux, nucleus, to rotate, revolve, spin, swing, swivel, twist, turn. So many meanings, all to encompass one central thing. You had to change your perspective. You had to look at things differently. So I don't know about you guys, but I feel like 2020 is the year again. It's not just the year of the woman. It's the year of learning how to look at things differently. It's so many things have come about for us to be exposed to. I think I've said it in other, I know I've said it in other podcasts. 2020 is the year of revelation. Our eyes have been opened to see the world in so many different ways. And along that line, 2020 is the year of the woman. Women have had to step up. Not that we hadn't been stepping up before, but we really had to step into it in 2020 so that we can really try to help elevate the country, especially Black women. I'm going to give all praise and reverence to us as queens. We are doing the work. And definitely want to send a special shout out to Stacey Abrams, because she is truly doing the Lord's work out here, trying to make sure that every vote is counted, everybody's voice is heard. She pivoted. She went from wanting to be the governor of the state of Georgia to being the person that helped make sure that the president-elect won the state of Georgia, because no cap, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would not have won the state of Georgia without Stacey Abrams. That woman deserves all praise, reverence, and anything her heart desires, because she knew how to embrace the pivot. And on a side note, I'm very excited about her releasing another book. I will be adding that to my reading repertoire, because I admire people who are able to, in the midst of their own personal struggles and tragedies, because she was hurt by not winning the governorship of Georgia, she was able to pivot. She saw something or dug up something within herself that made her see that she needed to move past her pain so that she could pivot and do something better for the good. That's a powerful woman, and we need to learn from her. So I will definitely be sharing my thoughts on that as I read that book. But back to today's story, and back to how it applies to right now and what I'm thinking about for us as we are all looking at how we are pivoting. 2020 is the year of the pivot. We've all had plans, like I said earlier, and thoughts, there were things that we wanted to accomplish, and we recognized that we had to be able to turn, to twist, to manipulate ourselves in certain ways to be able to fit into what 2020 has required of each of us. And I think we need to give ourselves a round of applause for that. I'm definitely, here you go, a little clap. You might not hear it on the microphone, but I'm clapping for us because we were able to pivot. Because if we didn't, what would be the alternative? We would be stuck in trying to believe that our lives have not been uprooted in the way that they have, that we would not all of a sudden, most of us, or a lot of us, be working remotely from home, that we would not be facing a pandemic of global magnitude. I mean, I don't know about you, but no offense, when I went into 2020, that was the last thing I was thinking about. All I was thinking about is I'm going on vacation in February, and I'm going on vacation again in June and July, and I am going to live my best life. I even had a vision board party with other people. I had a vision of how I thought my life was going to go in 2020, and God showed me, you're going to get some of that. But I need you to be able to be pivoting, to be able to pivot, because I have other plans in store for you. And I wanted to talk about that, because I don't feel like being able to pivot is just a 2020 kind of thing. I think as all of us are getting ready to go into 2021, we have to learn how to acknowledge the fact that our lives will never be the same as they were before. Yes, there will be certain things that we do again. We will travel again. And we will, go out and have dinner again. All those things will come back. But I feel like a lot of those things will be very different for us than what we are used to. Being able to move around with ease, it's going to be a little different, because now the world has been shook by something like this, and the world had to pivot its perceptions. It's not just us who've made changes in our lives locally, getting used to working from home and doing all these things. many people, and not going out and not traveling. This is a worldwide situation. I mean, in many countries overseas, especially in Europe, they're locking down again. We just got through our first little bit of lockout, and they're going back in because it's still not eradicated enough where they can comfortably allow people to move through the city. I mean, we're very fortunate, and when I look at overseas bloggers and influencers that I follow, they're talking about how they're having to travel with paperwork to justify their moves. We're not living like that at this point. But if we had to live like that, would we be able to pivot? Would we be able to do the things that we need to do so that we can go forward and live our best lives under such unusual circumstances? And now it's amazing how, again, we've had to pivot. We've had to pivot from selfishness. And don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of people out here who are still on the selfish train. And bless you. And it's not a judgment, it's just a real fact. And that's something that everyone has to deal with themselves. But to me, it seems like a lot of people are starting to pivot away from that and realizing that, I need to be concerned about the person next to me. I need to be looking at about how my actions can affect not just me and my family, but the next generation ahead. I mean, we just went through an election cycle, and as we can see, the nation is very split and divided. But at the same time, you saw a lot of people say, I want to be a part of the process. People who weren't willing or even interested in sharing their perspectives before, they pivoted because they recognized what was going on. And they said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and jump on in and become a part of the process. And now look at what we have. We have an opportunity to start righting the wrongs that we've endured over the past 4 years and setting it up just so that our next generation behind us can be in a better position. Again, it's all about pivoting. So it's just, I say all of that to say maybe this is a time, and I think it is a time, not maybe. I think this is a time, especially as we are going into the end of 2020, that we have to look at all the things that we have gone through and the adjustments that we have made and give all praise and reverence to God for allowing us to be able to pivot. Because for many of us, that pivoting saved us. And yes, during this time, there were businesses born, there were children born, there was love renewed and found. But there also was an opportunity for us to get inside of ourselves, to pivot to not being so focused on the outside world, to be pivoting into ourselves and look at the great work that has probably occurred because we took that chance on ourselves, because we made that decision to pivot and look at what we wanted and what was best for us. And that's where we were able to make improvements and grow. And we have to kind of keep that mindset going into 2021 because none of us know what 2021 will hold. We are going through now, even still, a contentious election cycle because our president doesn't want to concede. And again, like I said, this is not a political podcast. I just brought that up for perspective. He hasn't pivoted. That's why he's still hanging on to something that does not belong to him. But again, looking at his opponent, President-elect Joe Biden, he's pivoted. He's not focused on what this man says or doesn't say. He's focused on moving forward to the future. So I say all of that to say to us that we have to be focused on that as well. We have to be able to pivot. Are we going to sit here and be still overwhelmed by what we have endured in 2020? Or are we going to pivot and allow our hope, because I still believe that there is hope out there, our optimism, because I still believe that we are optimistic, that our future will be different, because if you don't have hope, you can't be optimistic, and be able to pivot into looking at 2021 as a new opportunity. And yes, carrots are dangled with vaccines and all of those great things, and those will come to fruition, thank goodness. And I feel blessed that we will have those opportunities. But at the same time, you still have to be able to pivot because the world will continue to change. Life will continue to change. And we are at this critical point right now where we are in a constant cycle of change. So if you haven't figured it out by now, you better be able to pivot into your big girl panties and your big boy drawers and figure out how you're going to be able to pivot so that you can make it forward in the next iteration that we will face. Because I think I said this in an earlier episode. I had seen, it was like a meme, or actually, no, maybe just more of a poem that someone had put together about how during this time when we were locked down, this was an opportunity to rest. This was an opportunity to read, to connect with your family, to create. And all of those things are true. This is that time. Because, yes, many of us are busy. I know I'm busy. I'm exhausted. I've had a long week and I'm busy. Um, but it's still an opportunity for me and for you to balance that with connecting with our family and with the people who we love and who mean the world to us. Because there's going to come a time when we're going to pivot. We won't be in this state of uncertainty. We'll have a clear direction. And you're going to have to pivot in order to be able to embrace the change that comes with that clarity. So I feel like all of that is said to say, value the time that you are being given, even though it may not be what you want to do. We would all love to be out in the street. We would all love to be traveling. But there is a reason that we are at this point where we can only go so far. Take that time to invest in yourself. Guard your heart. Touch and connect with your energy. Strengthen yourself. Because in 2021, we're going to have to pivot. And you're going to need that strength, that peace, that energy, that love from your family and your friends to be able to support you as you go on the journey. Because again, we don't know what that journey is going to be. So you're going to have some roots within inside of you to help you be better. So take this time, value it, and treasure it. Don't be in so much of a rush. Just be in a moment of preparation so that you will be able to pivot. So I hope that made sense, because I think pivoting is going to be very key for us as we wrap up 2020 and going into 2021. And I really want you all to think about, where in your life have you had to pivot this year? And give yourself grace and reverence and praise for making it through those pivots. And then look at what you may face in 2021 and really think about what you want to accomplish and how you will be prepared to pivot. Yes, we have been through a lot, but tragedy can breed greatness if we allow our mindsets to shift into it. So take the time now to cry, to be sad, but to also heal and then prepare yourself for what's coming next. So thank you. Like I said again, I really hope it made sense for sharing this time with me. I hope you will like, share, and subscribe this episode. All of my social information will be in the show notes, and I look forward to connecting with you again next week. Thank you all for continuing to support me on this journey. Take care of yourselves. Be well.